Odense is the third largest city in Denmark. It has a population of 180,863, and is the main city of the island of Funen. By road, Odense is located 45 kilometers north of Svendborg, 144 kilometers to the south of Aarhus, and 167 kilometers to the southwest of Copenhagen. The city is the seat of Odense municipality and was the seat of Odense County until 1970, and Funen County from 1970 until January 1, 2007, when Funen County became part of the region of southern Denmark. Odense has close associations with Hans Christian Andersen, who is remembered above all for his fairy tales. He was born in the city in 1805 and spent his childhood years there. There has been human settlement in the Odense area for over 4,000 years, although the name was not mentioned in writing until 988, and by 1070, it had already grown into a thriving city. Canute IV of Denmark, generally considered to be the last Viking king, was murdered by unruly peasants in Odense's St. Albans Priory on July 10, 1086. Although the city was burned in 1249 following a royal rivalry, it quickly recovered and flourished as a center of commerce in the Middle Ages. After a period of decline, large-scale plans for development were made during the 18th century, which led to the rebuilding of Odense Palace and the building of a canal to the port of Odense, facilitating trade. In 1865, one of the largest railway terminals in Denmark was built, further increasing the population and commerce, and by 1900, Odense had reached a population of 35,000. Odense's Odense Turret was one of the tallest towers in Europe when built in 1935 but was destroyed by the Nazis during World War II. The University of Southern Denmark was established in 1966. In the present day, Odense remains the commercial hub of Funen and has a notable shopping district with a diversity of stores. Several major industries are located in the city, including the Albani Brewery and Gossa, Denmark's major dealer in vegetables, fruits, and flowers. The city is home to Odense Palace, erected by King Frederick IV, who died there in 1730, the Odense Theatre, the Odense Symphony Orchestra, and the Hans Christian Andersen Museum, situated in the house that was the birthplace of Hans Christian Andersen. In sports, Odense has a number of football clubs including OB, BM, BE 1909, and BE 1913, the Odense Bulldogs professional ice hockey team, and the city also hosts the H.C. Andersen Marathon. Odense is served by Hans Christian Andersen Airport and Odense Station, which lies on the line between Copenhagen and the Jutland Peninsula. Landmarks. Odense is the see of the Bishop of Funen. St. Canute's Cathedral was formerly connected with the great Benedictine monastery of the same name and is one of the largest and finest buildings of its kind in Denmark. Originally dating from 1081 to 1093, the church was rebuilt in the 13th century in brick in a pure Gothic style. Under the altar lies Canute, the patron saint of Denmark, and his brother on public display. A large fragment of Byzantine cloth is displayed next to the two skeletons. The cathedral also boasts one of Denmark's most remarkable altarpieces, a magnificent triptych by Claus Berg. Kings Jens and Christian II are buried in the city. St. Albans Church, built in the neo-Gothic style and consecrated in 1908, is the Roman Catholic Church of Odense. Its steeple is 54 meters high. St. Mary's Church, built in the 13th century and restored in 1851 to 1852 and again in 1864, contains a carved 16th-century altarpiece by Claus Berg of Lübeck. St. John's Church, first mentioned in 1295, was built by the Knights Hospitaller, also known as the Order of St. John. Not much of the original building remains as it was rebuilt in 1636 and subsequently restored. Built of red brick with horizontal decorations on the chancel wall, it has large Gothic windows. The date of 1496 on one of the bells in the steprad tower may well be the year the church was completed. The tower is adjacent to Odense Palace, which was originally built as a monastery. Ansgar's church was the first church to be built in Odense since the Middle Ages. Completed in 1902, it was designed by Niels Jacobsen in the late Romanesque style in red brick on granite foundations. The cross-shaped interior is complemented by a spired bell tower, 45 meters high. The Peace Church, consecrated in 1920, was so named in gratitude for the end of the First World War. The church was the work of Peter Wilhelm Jensen-Klint, who went on to design Copenhagen's Grundtvigschurch. City Hall. Odense's City Hall, with its medieval Italian look, was designed by Johann Daniel Herholt and Karl Lendorf in the historicist style. Completed in 1883, it combines red masonry with sandstone decorations, stepped gables and a sawtooth course. It stands on the site of a smaller building from 1480. In 1937, Bent Helvegmaler won the competition for the building's enlargement. The tower over the main entrance was torn down in 1942 but was not rebuilt. As work was delayed during the war, the extension was not completed until 1955. In conjunction with Hans Christian Andersen's 200th anniversary in 2005, comprehensive renovation work was completed on the building's interiors, including the entrance halls, meeting rooms, banqueting hall and council chamber. Odense Palace. Odense Theatre. Odense Palace was erected by Frederick IV, who died there in 1730. Now an administrative building, it stands on the site of St. Hans Cloister, a 15th-century monastery which was transferred to the crown in 1536. The main white Baroque wing with 13 bays was designed by J.C. Krieger for Frederick IV and completed in 1723. Set in a park, the King's Garden was constructed to a French design by Johann Cornelius Krieger. Hans Christian Andersen connections. Hans Christian Andersen's home. Remembered above all for his fairy tales, Hans Christian Andersen was born in Odense in 1805. It is thought his birthplace is the small yellow house on the corner of Hans Jensen Street and Bangsboder in the Old Town. In 1908 the house was opened as the Hans Christian Andersen Museum. It documents his life from his childhood years as the son of a struggling shoemaker, to his schooling, career as an author, and later life, with artifacts providing an insight into his acquaintances and adventures. Andersen's childhood home is on Munkemølle Street, not far from the cathedral. He lived in the little half-timbered house from the age of 2 until he was 14. Opened as a museum in 1930, the house contains an exhibition of the cobbling tools used by his father and other items based on Andersen's own descriptions. Throughout the city there are numerous statues and sculptures representing characters from the stories of Hans Christian Andersen. They include the steadfast tin soldier, the mermaid, the shepherdess and the chimney sweep, the toad, the darning needle, the emperor's new clothes, the seahorse, the paper boat, the flying trunk and the wild swans. There is also a distinctive statue of Andersen in the fairy tale park beside the cathedral. Sculpted by Louis Hasselrius in 1888, it shows the storyteller with a book in his hand, ready to entertain onlookers with his fairy tales.